we're all here this evening because it's Lent, and Lent's a 40-day season of prayer, self-reflection, fasting and almsgiving. As we know, it begins on Ash Wednesday and ends at sundown on Holy Thursday. The fourth Sunday in Lent, from which this evening we will hear the Gospel reading, is commonly known as Laetare Sunday. It means rejoice in Latin. It's a Sunday when traditional Lenten austerity is relaxed and we have a reminder of the joyful resurrection to come. Perhaps the day can inspire us as we continue in our own Lenten commitments and perhaps deepen our faith on this journey with Christ. The day's liturgical colour will be rose, and vestments might be this colour rather than violet, which is worn throughout Lent to symbolise repentance and penance. The colour violet reminds us of the flower that bows its head and is a symbol of humility.
We're going to sing 3 rounds of a well-known Taizé chant, "Bless the Lord, my soul." And the reason I've chosen this is that in its full version, which is too long to have tonight, it has verses which are sung on top of the chant, and the verses are all about God's forgiveness and love for his children. It talks about a father's love for his children, a father having compassion on his children as the Lord has on us, and I felt that's very in tune with the message of the Gospel of the prodigal son. Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life. Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life. Bless the Lord, my soul, and bless God's holy name. Bless the Lord, my soul, who leads me into life.
The prodigal son. I decided I would return home. On the way back, I thought of all I had done. My shame felt heavier than the filtered cake onto my own skin. My thoughts consumed me until I looked up. When I looked up, I saw him. I saw him anticipating my arrival with open arms. Shocked, I felt warmth spread through my body as reality settled in that this is my welcome.
The readings this week have a theme of forgiveness and reconciliation. Tonight we will hear the parable of the prodigal son, which illustrates to us the infinite mercy of God. The Father's unconditional love for his wayward son reflects the Lord's own love for us, no matter how far we have strayed. It teaches us once more that God is a kind and understanding Father. In the parable, the elder son struggles to accept this love, and perhaps we can all ask ourselves, When have we been the resentful older brother? Rejecting grace, annoyed that God is merciful, and feeling like we deserve more recognition. I suppose we have to ask ourselves, do we truly believe in God's forgiveness? And are we willing to extend the same mercy to others? Perhaps at other times we have been the prodigal son, turning our backs and squandering God's gifts. If so, did we have the confidence of God's love to return? This Lent, we're all invited to embrace the healing powers of God's love and to extend that love to those around us. So the reading from the Gospel tonight is from Luke chapter 15, verses 1 to 3, and also verses 11 to 32. At that time, the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to Jesus, and the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." So he told them this parable. There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me." And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead, and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now, his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called to one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said to him, 'Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound.' But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him, but he answered his father, 'Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fattened calf for him.' And he said to him, 'Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found.'" The word of the Lord.
The story of the prodigal son is only found in Luke's Gospel. The Pharisees and scribes had derided Jesus for receiving sinners, and it's this accusation that sets the stage for the story. about a father and his two sons. The younger one squanders his inheritance but repents. The other, who remained dutiful but resentful. This painting is part of a series of 6 by Spanish artist Bartolomé Esteban Murillo, who was a leading painter in 17th century Seville, depicting the entire story of the prodigal son over 6 canvases, from receiving his inheritance, departing, spending everything, being driven out and reduced to feeding pigs. Don't panic, I'm not going to discuss all 6. Just this one, the final and most pivotal work in the series, The Return of the Prodigal Son. It captures the climax of the story, focusing on the emotional reunion between father and son. The painting is reminiscent of a well-staged theatre piece, with all the characters effectively placed to underscore the drama. It's a profound study, conveying themes of vice and virtue, forgiveness and regret. It portrays the younger son returning home remorseful and seeking forgiveness. His father welcomes him with open arms, and the artist captures a moment of intense emotion as the son kneels in a prayerful pose and locks eyes with his father, and the sadness in them expressing genuine sorrow and regret. His mother looks on from behind with an expression which can only be described as relief. And together their figures are arranged centrally and bathed in light and form a triangular composition, which is symbolic of the Holy Trinity. The artist has selected essential elements from the Gospel story. A robe is brought forth by a servant, a direct reference to the biblical narrative, and in the background, to the right, we see the fatted calf. The painting is rich in symbolism, contrasting the tattered clothes of the son with the fine clothes brought for him, indicating his restored status and dignity. The elder son has also been placed in the scene, on the far left of the canvas. He's standing in the shadow, on the edge of the action. He looks on with an expression of resentment. Contrast his sullen expression with the compassionate expression on his father's face. He could not accept the forgiveness extended to his brother. He's jealous and envious, and all the wealth that he has becomes nothing in that moment. The Gospel tells us that later, in his anger, he refuses to join the celebration. His father goes to him and pleads with him and reminds him the inheritance is still his. He is standing on the outside, deciding if he wants to go in. And that's how the story ends. Does the older brother go in? We don't know. And that's intentional, because it allows us to place ourselves in their shoes. The two groups that Jesus was addressing were the religious leaders of his time, represented by the self-righteous older brother, and sinners represented by the humble surrender and repentance of the younger. The question Jesus was asking, are you going to come in, or are you going to stand on the outside? If we mess up, perhaps that there's no way to make up for it, we need unconditional forgiveness. We gain so much when we abandon our sense of value and ego and appreciate the joy we have now. This painting captures a powerful message of reconciliation love and forgiveness, and conveys that even in our darkest hour, returning to God's arms is possible. A very comforting thought, to be sure.
Lord, continue to bless our community in this time of transition. Help us on our journey to grow from a maintenance church to a missionary church. Give us the courage to be missionary disciples. Make our doors wide enough to receive all who need human love and fellowship, narrow enough to shut out all envy, pride and prejudice. Kindle in us the fire of your love, that all who come here will find joy, peace and love. Make this a house of prayer and a gateway to your kingdom. Amen.
Tonight's song I have chosen is called Home, and it's a Christy and Knuckles song. Christy Knuckles' song Home tells us about finding solace and belonging in God's embrace. A place where we can come home to his heart and find everything coming back together. A place of belonging. The song emphasises the idea of home as a place where we truly belong, where we can't go wrong and where everything comes back together. God's heart as home. Christy Knuckles expresses that God's heart is our true home, a place of comfort and peace. Reconciled to the Father, the song highlights the hope of being reconciled to God's love and grace, a message central to the gospel story. Written after a session of hardship, Christy Knuckles wrote the song after a long session of enduring some pretty daunting physical ailments, as well as the carrying the weight of how our world has drastically changed these past few years. Invitation to come home suggests that we're not only invited to be with God in eternity, but also to come home to his heart in the present moment. A cry for God's heart is a cry for understanding God's heart, knowing what brings him joy and what breaks his heart, and responding to that with our own lives. Finding peace and wholeness, Christy Knuckles believes that living in God's presence and surrendering to his ways leads to peace and wholeness. This song stands as a vivid reminder of not only that moment, but what I truly believe God's desire for his people in this hour. That we would come home to his heart, fully and completely. To connect to the prodigal son's parable with the song Home, you can see that the song's theme of longing for a place of belonging and acceptance mirrors the son's journey of self-realisation and his father's unconditional love and forgiveness, emphasising God's welcoming nature for those who return. The prodigal son's journey, the parable of the prodigal son, Luke 15:11-32, illustrates a son who squanders his inheritance, experiences hardship, and ultimately returns home humbled and seeking forgiveness. The father's unconditional love. The father, despite the son's mistakes, rejoices as he returns and welcomes him back in open arms, demonstrating God's boundless of love and forgiveness. Home as a symbol often evokes feelings of longing, belonging, and the comfort of a safe haven. Connecting the parable and the song of the prodigal son and the song Home both speaks to us and of our own experience of feeling lost, seeking belonging, and the hope of finding acceptance and forgiveness. the gospel message, the prodigal son parable and the song home, when viewed through that lens, can used to illustrate the gospel of message of God's grace, mercy and the invitation to return to him, finding forgiveness and a renewed sense of belonging. The prodigal son restored to his place in the family and given a celebration, symbolising that despite the mistakes made, there's always hope for redemption and healing. The song Home speaks of finding peace and healing after a journey of struggle and wandering. Both the song and the parable point to the power of love, offering signs of comfort and healing, and when returning to one's rightful place. In both the song and the parable, home is just not a physical place, but a metaphor for the spiritual belonging peace. Just as the prodigal son finds peace in his father's embrace, the song Home emphasises longing for the soul to return to a place where it feels truly loved and safe. Reflecting on how both the song and the parable speaks to us, the experience of longing for home and the desire to find forgiveness both call attention to God's love and the hope of returning to him, no matter how lost or broken one might feel. The father in the prodigal son parable shows immersed grace, accepting his son back with hesitation despite the mistakes. The song Home speaks to a love that welcomes you back, emphasising that no matter how far you've wandered, you're always welcome. Both the father in the parable and the words in the song reflect the grace of God that always welcomes us back, offering forgiveness, love, even when we've strayed. Can you be home?
Home, where I belong, my home, where I can't go wrong, my home, where everything comes back together again, where my heart leans back into your arms, and the walls I built just fall, and everything comes back together again, 'cause I'm home. And long before anyone looked my way, you threaded my beginnings. And even before I lived one day, you saw the very ending. And oh, what a comfort just to know that I was made by you and for you. 'Cause wouldn't that make you my home? Where I belong, my home, where I can't go wrong, my home, where everything comes back together again, where my heart leans back into your arms, and the walls are built just fall, and everything comes back together again, 'cause I'm home. And long before anyone looked to me or said I had shoes to fill, you placed your peace upon my feet and gave me a heart that can be still. And oh, what a comfort I'm running, trying to make some big grand entrance home, carrying all of my treasures. I just wanna make you proud of all I've done, but that's when I see you running from the screen door on the front porch with a smile that says it all, that you just want me home, where I belong, my home, where I can't go wrong, my home, where everything comes back together again, where my heart leans back into your arms, and the walls I built just fall, and everything comes back together again, 'cause I'm home. I'm coming back home to you again, to you again. And I see you running. I'm coming back home to you again. Oh, it's further up and farther in. I'm coming home to you again. Oh, further up and farther in. I'm coming home to you again. Oh, further up and farther in. I'm coming home to you again. Oh, further up and farther in. I'm coming home. I'm coming home to you again. Yeah. I'm coming home to you. Further up and farther in. Further up and farther in.